You'll be reading one of Ralph
You'll be
Waldo
reading
Emerson's best-known essays,
best-known
Self-Reliance,
essays,
and comparing it
Self-Reliance,
with his
and
poems
comparing
and other
it
works.
with his poem
I
and
think
those
this
works.
essay has the
I
potential
think
to be
it is
quite
the
meaningful for all of
potential.
you, as young people who probably wonder about
You
things like
never
truth
things
and
like
where your
truth
lives
and
are
where
going,
your
all
lives
sorts
to
of
go.
profound questions.
Questions.
Knowing
Knowing
something about
something
Emerson's
about Emerson's
philosophies will help
philosophy
you when
will
you
help
read
you when you read
Self-Reliance. And
Self-Reliance.
basically, one
And
of the main
basically,
beliefs
one
that he
of
had
the
was about truth.
belief that he
Not
had
that it's
was
something
have
that we can be
truth.
taught.
Not that
Emerson
is
says it's
something that
found
we
within
become.
ourselves.
Emerson said it's only
So this
so.
truth,
So this
the idea
truth,
that
the
it's in each
idea
one of
that
us,
it's in your
is one of the
each
first
one
points that
is
you'll see
something
Emerson
that
making in
Emerson
this essay.
makes with this essay.
It's a bit
It's a
abstract,
bit
but he's very
abstract, but he's very
into each person
each
believing
person
his or her
believing his
own
or her
thought,
own thought.
believing in yourself,
Believing
the
in
thought or
yourself is a
conviction
sort
that's
of
true for you.
conviction that's true for you.
But actually,
Well,
he
actually,
ties
he
that in
ties
with a sort of
it to
universal
a
truth,
sort of
something that
universal
everyone
truth, something
knows
that
but
everyone
doesn't
knows
realize
but
they know.
doesn't realize it. No.
Most of us aren't in touch with
And the
ourselves, in a way,
intentions in a way,
so we
so
just
we
aren't
just
capable of
incapable
recognizing
of
profound
recognizing
truths.
profound
It
truths.
takes
It takes
geniuses,
geniuses,
people like, say,
saying
Shakespeare, who are unique
who's
because when
unique
they have a glimpse of
when
this truth,
glimpse or
this
the truth,
universal
the
truth,
universal
they pay
truths, they
attention
pay
to it and
attention to
express it,
it and
and don't
express
just
it and
dismiss it like most
just
people do.
dismiss it.
So
So
Emerson is
Emerson
really
is
into each
really into each
individual believing
individual
in and
behaving
trusting
and
him or
trusting him or
herself.
herself.
You'll see that
You
he
see
writes
that
about,
he writes about,
well, first,
first
conformity.
conformity.
He
He
criticizes the
criticized
people of
the
his
people
time
with
for
his time
abandoning
for
their own minds and
abandoning
their own
their
wills for the sake of
wills for the
conformity and
sake of
consistency.
conformity and consistency.
They try to fit in with the
They
rest of
try
the
to fit
world,
in the rest of the
even though
world,
it's at
even
odds
though
with
it's
their beliefs
ours
and their
with
identities.
their identities.
Therefore, it's best to be
Therefore,
a
it's best to be
nonconformist, to do your own
non-conformist,
thing, not worrying about what
not
other
worrying
people think.
about
That's an important
other
point.
things. That's
He
an
really drives
important.
this
He
argument
really
home
was
throughout the essay.
the home essays.
When you're reading,
When
I want
you're
you to think
reading, I
about
want
that
you to
and why
think
that kind
about
of
that
thought would be
and what.
relevant to the readers of his time. Remember, this is
Remember, this is
1838.
1838.
Self-reliance was a
Self-reliance
novel
was a
idea at the
novel
time,
idea at
and
the time,
United
and
States
the United
citizens were less
citizens
secure
were
about
secure
themselves
about
as individuals and as Americans.
and the individual of
The
America.
country as a
The
whole was
country as a
trying to
whole
define
was
itself.
trying to define itself.
Emerson wanted to give
Emerson
people something
wanted
to
to
really
give
think
people
about,
really think
help them
about,
find
help
their own
them
way,
find their
and
way,
what it
and
meant to be who
what
they were.
who it was.
So that's
So
something that
that's
I
something
think is
that I think
definitely as
is
relevant
definitely
today as it was
today.
then.
It was then.
Probably,
Probably,
especially among young
especially among
adults like
young adults like
yourselves.
yourselves.
You know, college being a
College
time
being
to
a
sort of
time
really
to sort
think
of
about
really
who
think
you are and
about
where you're
who
going.
you're going.
Now, we already
Now, we
said that
already
Emerson
said
really
that
emphasized
Emerson really
nonconformity,
emphasized
right?
nonconformity, right?
As a way to
As
sort
a
of
way to sort
not
of
lose your own
not
self
lose
and
your
identity in the world,
identity in the
to
world,
have your own
to
truth
have
and
your
not
own
be
choice
afraid to
and
listen to it.
listen to it.
Well, he takes it
Well,
a
he
step
takes this
further.
a step further.
Not conforming
Not
also
conforming
means
also means
not conforming
not
with yourself
conforming with
or your
yourself or
past.
your past.
What does that
What
mean?
does that mean?
Well,
Well,
if you've
if
always been
you've
a certain
always been a
way or
certain
done a
way or
certain
done a
thing, but
certain
it's
thing,
not working for you
it's not
anymore,
working
or
for
you're
you,
not
or
content,
you're not content.
Emerson says that it
Emerson
would be
says
foolish
that
to be
it's
consistent
foolish
even
to
with
be
our own
consistent
past.
even with our
Focus
past.
on the future, he
Focus on the
says.
future, he
That's what
says.
matters
That's what
more.
matters more.
Inconsistency is good.
Inconsistency is good.
He talks
He
about a
talks
ship's
about the
voyage,
ship's voyage,
and this is one of the
this
most
is
famous
one of
bits
the
of the
most
essay.
famous bits
How
in
the
the
best
essay.
voyage is made
The
up of
best
zigzag
zigzag
lines.
lines.
Up close,
Of course,
it seems a
it
little
seems a
all
little
over the
over the
place, but from
place,
farther away, the
for
true
further
path
away,
shows,
the
and in
truth
the end,
shows,
it
and in
justifies
the
all the
just
turns
all
along
the
the way.
time along the way.
So don't
So
worry if you're
don't
not
worry
sure
if
of where
you're
you're
not
headed
sure
or what
where
your
you're
long-term
headed
goals
or
are.
what
Stay true to
Stay
yourself, and
true
it'll
with
make sense in the
yourself,
end.
it will make sense
I
in
mean,
the end.
I can attest to
I
that.
can attest to that.
Before I was a literature
Before I
professor,
was a
I was an
literature professor,
accountant.
I was
Before
an
that,
accountant.
I was a newspaper reporter. My life has taken some pretty interesting turns, and here I am, very happy with my experiences and where they've brought me. If you rely on yourself and trust your own talents, your own interests, don't worry, your path will make sense in the end.
Will make sense in the end.
Hey, Jane, you look like you're in a hurry.
Yeah, things are a little crazy.
Oh, yeah, what's going on?
Now you will be reading one of Ralph Waldo Emerson's best-known essays, Self-Reliance, and comparing it with his poem and other works. I think this essay has the potential to be quite meaningful for all of you as young people who probably wonder about things like tools and where your lives are going. All sorts of profound questions. Knowing something about Emerson's philosophy will help you when you read Self-Reliance. And basically, one of the main beliefs that he had was about tools. Not that it's something that we can be taught. Emerson says it's found within ourselves. So these tools, the idea that it's in each one of us, is one of the first points that you see Emerson making in this essay. It's a bit abstract, but he's very into each person believing his or her own thought, believing in yourself, in the thought or conviction that's true for you. But actually, he ties that in with a sort of universal truth, something that everyone knows but doesn't realize they know. Most of us aren't into touch with ourselves in a way, so we just aren't capable of recognizing profound truths. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Recognize. Recognize. Recognize profound truths. It takes geniuses, people like, say, Shakespeare, who are unique because when they have a glimpse at these truths, these universal truths, they pay attention to it and express it and don't just dismiss it like most people do. So Emerson is really into each individual believing in and trusting him or herself. You'll see that he writes about, well, false conformity. He criticizes other people of his time for abandoning their own minds and their own wills for the sake of conformity and consistency. They try to fit in with the rest of the world even though it's at odds with their beliefs and their identities. Therefore, it's best to be a nonconformist, to do your own thing, not worrying about what other people think. That's an important point. He really drives this argument home throughout the essay. When you're reading, I want you to think about that and why that kind of thought would be relevant to the readers of his time. Remember, this is 1838. Self-reliance was a novel idea at that time, and the United States citizens were less secure about themselves as individuals and as Americans. The country as a whole was trying to define itself. Emerson wanted to give people something to really think about, help them find their own way and what it meant to be who they were. So that's something that I think it's definitely as relevant today as it was then. Probably, especially among young adults like yourselves, college begin time to sort of really think about who you are and where you are going. Now, we already said that Emerson really emphasizes nonconformity, right? As a way to sort of not lose your own self and identity in the world, to have your own truths and not be afraid to listen to it. Well, he takes this step further. Not conforming also means not conforming with yourself or your past. What does that mean? Well, if you've always been a certain way or done a certain thing, but it's not working for you anymore, or you're not content, Emerson says that it'd be foolish to be consistent, even with our own past. Focus on the future, he says. That's what matters more. Inconsistency is good. He talks about a ship voyage, and this is what all the most famous bits of essay. How the best voyage is made up of zigzag line. After all, it seems a little all over the place. But from far away, the true path shows, and in the end, it justifies all the turns along the way. So don't worry if you're not sure where you're headed. The truth path shows well, what your long-term goals are. Stay true to yourself and it will make sense in the end. I mean, I can attest to that. Before I was a literature professor, I was an accountant. Before that, I was a newspaper reporter. Newspaper. Newspaper reporter. Newspaper reporter. My life is taking some pretty interesting turns, and here I am. Very happy with my experiences and the fears they brought me. If you rely on yourself and trust your own talents, your own interests, don't worry, your path will make sense in the end.